Yo, what's up? Trent Knox here with the Trent Knox Show. Trent Knox Show number 93. Late night stream. Late night stream. Little hype tracks in the background. Little sip on the red cup. Uh, so I had intended to do this yesterday, but at the end of the night, I caught myself a stomach bug, and I think I'm finally recovering from the stomach bug, and I think I'm good now. I think I'm good. Uh, I had dinner with my mom, my grandma, and my brother on Wednesday night, and then I came back and I cooked up some fajita veggies and some fajita meat uh, that I had in the freezer, and I defrosted the fajita meat, and I don't know exactly whether I should have. I don't know if I did it right in the microwave. Maybe it was. I don't know if I did it right, but um, yeah, I think I combination of those two foods in my stomach didn't really hang with me, and I have like a little bit of an issue with um, uh, what's it called, acid reflux and whatnot, and so I don't know entirely what sparked the thing, whether it be you know having ate something wrong, or what it may be, but I'm feeling much better now. Um, it was just like a little bit of grumbling in the stomach and just a little bit of stomach cramps and whatnot. But I guess it's good because I had intended to do um, this podcast last night because I felt good about cooking the the fajita, the fajita vegetables and the fajita meat, and I felt good about it. I mean, I hadn't cooked for myself in about a week or so since I'd been in California for Brian and Becca's wedding, and so coming back and like cooking a little bit for myself and that felt good. Um, food. Um, why it's one of the topics that I wanted to talk about was because my time spent in California, I felt that food, the ingredients that the restaurants used out in California were much fresher. Even the eggs, everything seemed much fresher over there than they are here in Texas. Like you go to a McDonald's and it's sloppily prepared. You go to a restaurant around here and it's like thrown together. But out in California, there's a certain, I guess, a different approach to food. Definitely a different approach to food. Now, caveat like that barbecue here that you get in Texas that is smoked and there's a preparation to it and that people take pride in the barbecue down here in Texas. You won't get necessarily in California. It's a different approach um and so that being said, like they take pride in their food in California, all foods, and that's less common here in Texas. Like for sure, people who cook at home here have great food. You might go to a cookout or a barbecue or an event out here, and there's pride taken in the culinary arts when it comes to food prepped here in Texas. But that doesn't extend necessarily to the commercial production of food here in Texas because you're not going to get that great of fast food out here in Texas versus the fast food out there in California. It just seemed like they took more care and preparation in their food there versus what they're doing out here. But that being said, food in general is something that I wanted to talk about because we, I think everyone is looking for food that is flavorful, that makes you feel good, that um, isn't going to make you feel sick, or it's like, you know, a lack of portions. I think people generally complain about the instances when they're underserved on a plate, like like at a fancy restaurant, or with tapas or something like that. That they feel they feel kind of like, um, I think people would rather have more of a portion at times than a small portion, uh, unless for whatever reason they're like watching their calories, and then potentially they like to be underserved on the food component. Uh, when I think about vegetables, when I think about meats, cheeses, uh, when I think about dairy and things like this, I generally am looking at like a grocery delivery um, situation. Like I just placed an order to go pick up, or no, order for delivery of groceries, and there's different. The applications now make it much easier to search, but at the same time, there's an experience that you get when you go to a grocery store and you're hunting for something that you generally wouldn't find. And I think apps like DoorDash, apps like Instacart, and other food delivery apps. I think there's a few other ones that I can't think of right now. Shipped, I think, is one. Uh, they offer sort of um, a very statistically sound way to pick your food, but there's a nuance to going through the aisles and observing, and at the times in which you can get samples, tasting the samples and seeing if you like something before you purchase it. And it's especially cool when you went to like a grocery store like Safeway is one that I remember growing up, or Randall's, etc., uh, Publix, and they're handing out samples. That didn't really happen at like a Walmart or a King's. Well, maybe it did happen at King Supers. I don't really remember that much about my experience in Colorado with King Supers, but uh, yeah, food is something that I feel like the the experience is part of the value you get in finding ingredients, and also when you're going out to eat, and that experience has been diminished by the pandemic, and the fact that there's um, a nationwide, at least, and I'm not certain if this is the case globally. And for those who are international audience of the podcast and of the live stream, stuff like that, in the comments below, talk about like this in context with the international audience, uh, that the nationwide labor shortage of people who they can't find pride in their work. They can't find because it's not satisfying um, their livelihoods. The the restaurant and hospitality industry, um, at least in a lot of the southern states, and to be more specific, the red states, they tend to pay a wage that is less than the minimum wage, because they assume that society and the patrons of those restaurants and bars and hotels and things like that are going to subsidize their income with tips, at least to the staff and whatnot. And there are certain organizations and whatnot that are subscription based restaurants or club based restaurants that treat their staff differently, but for the general public, your Chili's, your Applebee's, your Outback Steakhouses, like your very corporatized commercial restaurants, they're paying the waiting staff and the bartenders less than minimum wage, expecting them to make their livelihood off of tips. And I personally, having experienced that and having been in that, being employed restaurants and stuff like that, have seen that the cost to getting to work on many days was greater than the amount of money that you make during the day, because you're paying not only for transportation and then food on the day and the clothing to go to work. You're paying for all those other unknown expenses. And not to mention, like, for me, my circumstance is a single individual with no kids and no mortgage, no, and I did have a car payment at the time, but no longer do. Um, those things all accumulated into making it very it's a net negative when going to work for a restaurant. So I completely understand why there's a labor shortage. Like, I completely understand why. Although the billionaires and politicians and the uh, I'm just going to call them idiot entrepreneurs, don't foresee what the reality is, um, then this is just a circumstance that we're dealing with, and even raising the minimum wage doesn't make a difference for the way that corporate hospitality, restaurant, and hotel businesses operate. They're going to still pay the least amount of hourly wage and expect the patrons to subsidize the income through tips. And let's just be honest, people don't have money. And if they don't have money to spend, they're going out to try and get the best food for the cheapest price, and then basically stiff the gig workers. Because you know at least in the South, red states, where those um, waitresses, waiters, hosts, bus boys, and things like that. Where was I going with this? Where was I going with this? They depend on the tips, but um, there was a specific thing I wanted to say about this. Uh, oh man, I lost my train of thought on that one. But it is a thing that they're consistently having to basically not live on the edge, because they barely meet their bills, or if they don't meet their bills, then they have carried over credit card debt and things like that in order to make ends meet and whatnot. And many of them um, are either going through school or are not going to school, so there's not much of a direct um, you know what, everything for me eventually turns into business and whatnot. Even food, when I look at food, I look at how was this prepared, how did this make it to my plate, and what work went into this in order for it to to be right in front of me, to be able to eat it, and things like that. I'm very statistical when it comes to literally every commodity that comes in front of me, um, and I'm very grateful for those things when I see them. And I try not to I try to suppress that that part of me, because it can be limiting and prevent me from just doing what I need to do. And for instance, like that's presented itself in when I either didn't order groceries or like, out and about, or I'm at home about to order some delivery food. It's like I'm looking at it and I'm like, dang, this is this is 20 cents, 30 cents more than it would be if I drove there. But if I drove there, then I'm burning gasoline. And with the gasoline at $4 at or what, right now about $3 going on $4 here in Texas, at least in the central Texas area. Like, when I burn a gallon of gasoline going to, um, depending on how my car is functioning and whatnot, to go pick up the food. And where I live is sort of a food desert, mostly fast food, mostly junk food. Um, you could go to the grocery store, but if you spend time in the grocery store, you're wasting time, and time is money. And then these things add up, and you're like, dang, what did I really achieve in investing all this time, all this money, and all this, um, mental energy into getting this food, when you could just eat some fast food or junk food that's just not good. And I do appreciate, there's kind of circling back around that, like the California folks do put a little bit more um, care into their food versus what I experience out here in Texas. And now I'm sure, like, nah, I mean, I've been to the fanciest of restaurants here in Texas. I've been to some of the most innovative places, and it's just a very tough place to get a good bite to eat. Um, and also, I guess I kind of wanted to do this particular segment, the segment about food, because I was watching the movie Terminal after I had gotten off of the plane from California. I just was, I was thinking about, what if I got stuck? Because I got stuck flying from Austin to Dallas, Dallas to then Phoenix, and then Phoenix to Palm Springs. I got stuck along the way, and I managed to kind of wiggle my way out of getting stuck for like 7 to 8 hours in Dallas before connecting flight to Palm Springs by going to Phoenix. But what if your life was constrained to living in an airport, and the only food you had to eat was that you could scavenge for in an airport, especially in a situation where you have no money? And you know our essentially, when I was walking through the airport and stuff, I was thinking, people are constantly commuting by planes and buying airline tickets and things like that, and that there are even conference rooms at the airport, or places adjacent to airports, in which people can put on events and things like that, hotels and whatnot. um, and for those folks, like, their lives are mostly spent in airports, and the type of food that they eat. And not to mention, I spent like $75, and that's including tip, at Papados in Dallas during a layover before I flew back to Austin. On the way back, and I got mozzarella bites. Good. I kind of actually, I got those in to go so I could fly with them and finish them, because I was like, I gotta have this. I never had Papados before, and people say it's a rage and whatnot. And I know there's Papados um, up the street, but so I had Papados, and I got the shrimp and chicken tenders, and you know the other options didn't really fancy me. So I was like, ah, man, okay, well, I gotta try it. And I mean, the chicken tenders were great, and the shrimp was okay. And what do you expect from Texas, right? Um, you don't expect to get good shrimp in Texas. You don't expect to get good seafood in Texas. It's not something that's Texas is known for. It's not even really Texas isn't really known for chicken either. It was really known for brisket and beef. Um, and so yeah, it got me to thinking about food, and it got to me thinking about like the different lifestyles that get imposed on people who are eating food in different places, and people who are globe international globetrotters, and people who are concierge key American Airlines folks, or um, you know flying in and out of Dubai for those Instagram models and stuff. What sort of dishes do they get to eat? And it got me just thinking about food, and because my general diet is not where I want it to be, and I don't know if that's more poultry, more beef, more vegetables, going vegan, um, eating processed smoothies, getting what commercial commodity, or like purchasing like one of those at home delivery food services and whatnot. It's something that that it's something that I was thinking about, but I don't know how much thought I want to put into it. Um, I don't think I want to put a lot of thought into the daily nuance of eating food, but I don't know. And so I think that kind of we can roll that into relationships in the same way, that we talk about food, because food is something that, at least in American society, that is very uh, intr- in, intertwined with relationships. Very early on, when you're in public school, not necessarily private school or homeschooling, you're there's a there's a period called lunch. There's a period called recess after lunch for when you're going through elementary school and whatnot. The period of lunch where it's a gladiator's ring to find your best friends, and it's a fight to find the people that you would spend time with, and will provide you company during your lunch period, and there's a bit of an anxiety to it as well. That is like the 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 funny Hollywood memes of people judging how you eat, um based on like how you use utensils, or if you use your hands, or if you don't wash your hands, or whatever the case may be, prior to sitting down to bless your food, whatever the case may be. And I don't think I've ever seen anybody uh, do the prayer before lunch, but I think I've seen it. Um, I think I've seen it in offhand chances, but when I was growing up, I don't think I really saw people praying before they ate. I think actually I take that back. When I was attending a private school, you were required to pray before you eat, and I never, I never found any benefit out of that. Like, I don't think the prayers that I placed on this cafeteria food were gonna make it. make it any more digestible or any more nutrition having any more nutrients um, than it would if I hadn't prayed for it. Um, and and so as a relationship component with food, there's also the component of like food and love between your family, love between a first date, um, for the love of food, uh, for those people who like to do like eating, you know, what's it called? Uh, Speed eating competitions and things like that for the love of food. Um, but relationship component, when you sit down and you eat food in a cookout sense, like a Fast and the Furious family cookout style, sit down at um, the dining table or a mess hall level of sort of Valhalla esque turkey legs and whatnot, um, Renaissance fair, uh, long 30-foot tables, or even like a 12-foot table for a small gathering of people. There's the communication, the catching everybody up on the activities that you've gone through. And you know, I've always wanted to have sort of that lifestyle where friends and family communed for Sunday dinner, or like a Friday afternoon dinner where everyone sat down and then would go out to the bars and whatnot, and then everybody would reconvene for, you know, other nightly activities following uh, following those celebrations of sorts, because you're celebrating the end of a week and the beginning of a new week, and um, and celebrating health and wellness and different things through food. And that I've had small I've had on a very small scale experienced that in a few different times. I think I've never really had the attention span, I think, to actually accomplish some of those dreams and desires that I wanted. Um, a lot to do with the drama that ensued from those those engagements. Um, and I've always been someone that just wanted to like kind of not not have that drama. And maybe it's because I've never been kind of like settled down in a way. Um, the the girlfriends and the friends that I've had have always been like, for whatever reason, kind of distant. And I never felt close to anyone really. Never really had a close relationship. Um, and I think, I proposed this topic of conversation at family dinner, and I was basically told that I was wrong about um, my uh, definition or version or interpretation of what friendship is and what it should be. And I'm not, I'm uh, by no means saying I'm right, because in this circumstances, I feel that unless I'm completely proven wrong that this sort of close relationships don't exist, because if close relationships don't exist, then, well, then I'm wrong. I'm wrong. And having friends, having romantic partners, having business partners is a waste of time. It's a waste of time. And you should just be solo, and uh and it's every man for themselves, that people fuck you over, and people, they don't, that people don't want to support you, that they're self-interested, and that you should be self-interested too, and that being fake and being phony is being real. Like, that doesn't, like, for me, when I see people being two-faced, and them like saying, "Oh yes, I'm friends with that person," but really, are they friends? Like, when was the last time they hung out? When was the last time they shared birthdays? When was the last time they they gave each other like gifts? When was the last time that they went to the same parties? When was the last time? And if you start to realize that there's a cavernous distance between those two people, are they even really friends, or are they just acquaintance friends, people that they know, someone that you know? And that's, I want to play that song right now, because I just heard that song in my head. Someone that you used to know, because they're no longer, they're just Facebook friends, or they're just Instagram followers, or they're just TikTok friends or followers or whatever. They're not people that you're close with, you know? And it's a two-way street. I've heard that before, you know? And I, I always hear that from, I always hear it's a two-way street from someone that, I always hear it's a two-way street from someone that's not putting in the effort to be a friend. That's what I hear all the time. I'll hear it's a two-way street, or don't be a stranger, from people that don't put in the effort the other direction. And I'm statistics, man. I keep track of I keep track of it all. I always keep track of it. When was the last time somebody called, the person who said that called me? When was the last time they picked up the phone to check on me? Never. Never. They never do. And I always end up being, when I check the Excel spreadsheet, the person who called 3 to 4 different times back to that person. Or I'm the one that was calling them in their toughest times. I'm the one who was there for them when they were down. I'm the one, but then when I'm down, no one's there. No one's there. I'm there for me. That's it. One and only me. Zero. I'm the one. And that's how it goes. And I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one dealing with this, you know? Um, and now I'm going to get into this philosophical component, because I don't think people really. What I'm starting to realize is I have to segue it so that people can follow the train of thought, because the way that I was being addressed about these circumstances recently was, I was getting feedback, but the feedback, people, they weren't segueing from the points at which I was making, and then making a totally completely different point. So the point that I'm about to make is sort of the question okay, what energy should I be putting into the discovery of new friends, new relationships, if the relationships in the past or the present relationships aren't working? You can't get new family. You can't get a new mom, a new brother, a new sister, a new dad, a new uncle, a new aunt, a new. You can't get those. Those are established. Those are birth blood relationships, and then there's the circumstances when you can in the circumstances when you have a mixed relationship family, like stepmom, step sister, stepbrother, all these different other relationships. You can explore those relationships and see if that's any different than the one that you know you've been forced into having, or in some circumstances for those relationships that have been holding you down. And holding you down is sort of a negative terminology, because that also is so closely related to holding you back. Like, and you don't want those that are holding you down to be holding you back. And because those that are holding you back aren't watching your back. You know what I mean? They're not paying attention to what's going wrong in your life. And it's always, when you bring up uh when when you're mature enough and your ego is um quelled enough to where you can address your problems and then get the feedback from others. It's unfortunate when those people, your family, your ghost friends, the friends that are disappearing all the time, uh, when they're like being critical and criticizing you, but not providing you um, any steps or any direction for changing those things. And I'm not talking about rhymes and riddles, like rhymes and riddles, and where you have to unlock the puzzle in order to figure it out, but very direct language, very like step one, step two, step three. And the feedback when I say that, boom, boom, usually to people is, oh, I don't have time to give you the rigmarole. I don't have time to spend with you. I don't have time for you. Is essentially the language that people start to give in in those circumstances. They say, go talk to a psychologist, pay someone to talk to you, because what I'm going to tell you, what they're going to say to you is, they don't have the answers. Go try to find somebody who has answers. But meanwhile, when someone says I don't have the answers, they're going to be like, well, here's all these other problems, here. And it's like, okay, like one thing at a time. Let's address, like, if you're saying that this is that, or it be medication, a girlfriend, a new house, a new job, something like that, that'll change the dynamic of what you're doing, well, then that's great, but that's not happening overnight. That that's gonna be that that work. We're all aware of the work that goes into those things, but what can they do for you, and what can you do for them to do that for you? That's the sort of thing. And being very clear about it, not being like, here, not in a circumstance, I'm having to like kind of pull from all these different strings to try and sort out these stuff, because I'm talking about past, present, and future things that are going on, at least in my life, or the experiences that I've had. And these are my experiences. And I mean, some of them are relatable for folks. And I mean, others aren't relatable because they either have a different lifestyle, or they chose to make different decisions. And so they can learn from the circumstance if they opened up their cerebellum and they're like, really heard what I'm saying, because these are very principle level things that people deal with, but they're but in not everybody's circumstances. Well, here's the thing: some people choose to settle, and settling, that's something that I see. I've started to cop out in these sorts of arguments. I'd be like, look, I'm done having the conversation about how someone who has no strategy is going to tell me that I need to fix the problem. Well, I'm coming to you saying that I need to fix the problem. So I'm well aware that I need to fix the problem, but with no steps, no strategy, no goals, no observations of what opportunity or end goal there is to accomplish, and say, okay, now I've acquired that, and that having acquired that thing, does that completely change the dynamic of what I'm currently doing, or is that going to create a whole new problem? you know um and I think, well, it's true that that's life is a series of accomplishments and a series of failures, and um in the relationship component, you have to wonder, especially with right now, um, because I think culturally people are talking about that this is cuffing season. This is when people are settling in together for the winter, um, and people are, this is when babies get made. This is when or baby get the conception portion of babies happens, and whether that be um, a heterosexual or whatever sort of relationship it may be. I think it's strategically a good time to have children during the winter holidays, because you know that 9 months later the baby will be born basically in the summer, um, and then if a baby's born in the summer, then you're not caught up with the rigmarole of having the child in school during the period in which their birthday is. So then you have time to think about uh, dealing with their festivities and things that they need to get accomplished to have a good birthday, and that's so you care about your child, and things like that. And having been someone who was born out of season, born in November, which my birthday is coming up and be 28 years old, um, just having that perspective and that foresight for when I decide and make take the plunge, uh, to have kids, to settle down in that way, uh, what that what will be accomplished from that. And so I want to segue that definitely into the conversation about uh, about opportunities. Um, I think because of the other two things, and there's a give and take. It's a love triangle between opportunities, food, and relationships. This is a love triangle for sure, and each one is pulling away from the other. Uh, your food and your relationships can take away from the time that you're spent hustling and grinding to find opportunity, because opportunity just doesn't land in your lap, uh, unless you've built systems to attract those things. And man, I'm on today. There baby better put some respect on my name, man. The words are coming to me tonight. I'm loving it. Uh, it's probably be a short episode, and when I mean short episodes, can be an hour long episode. Uh, yeah, it's a love triangle. So the more time you spend being a glutton and uh, and a philanderer, you know, with relationships and food, and when are you ever working? Whenever you when are you earning a dime? And I mean, I guess big ups to all those Instagram influencers who are taking pictures of their food and fucking for a living. But um, uh, you know, I think the commitment, at least for me, is for business and for work is I spend a lot of my time either trying to refine the skills that I have. And I've been afraid for a long time to jump onto this microphone and just start creating content. And I know for whatever, I know this, I know this will not see as many eyeballs as I would like it to. I have kind of, one thing, one thing, which is interesting. Um, this is definitely not the most polished content that I'm gonna ever create. I can definitely see a variety of issues with it, but I can't let myself be limited by perfection. You know, I feel like it eventually over time as as the value and the core foundation of what I'm talking about and what I'm doing is realized by me in part, but also by those relationships. Um, and by the ethereal portion of this, by God, I guess, is someone should say, as God recognizes me, and as society and people recognize me, and as I recognize myself for the the core principles of what I'm talking about are are found to be true, uh, then people will 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 stop second guessing uh, me. I would assume, or I mean, because this is a big presumption that people would stop second guessing me, um, and stop leading that fake and phony life that they live, and being very practical and um, I think a lot of the depression and emotional stress that people exhibit when they feel bad about the things that they're doing, when they feel bad about how they're treating other people, and they cry because people treat them poorly or treat them with disrespect or whatnot. It's principally there's many times in which, and I feel this way, I feel that my approach and the way that I present to people at times may be misinterpreted, and so I need to be better at communicating and um, and sending off positive energy towards those people. And I felt emotional about the positive energy portion because it's hard to give someone positive energy that's giving you negative energy back because you don't feel filled. You don't feel you don't feel that your positive energy is rising. You feel that your positive energy is being depleted, and you are then uh, receiving negative energy, and and then it is your system that then has to convert that negative energy into positive energy, and you have to go out and you have to you have to release that positive energy. But if there's no place to release it, because you don't want to lose the positive energy without with without having the right circumstance and right situation to where the positive energy isn't being lost. It's just spreading and, and generating happiness and joy and sometimes pleasure, sometimes just Sometimes pleasure, sometimes relaxation. It could just be like peace. It could just be peace, like peace and prosperity. That that's and then that's all positive energy, just exuding um, and existing in a space to where you feel good and people around you feel good. And sometimes I feel like even with all the situations and circumstances that I'm going through, I'm a very positive person. I would say more on the neutral side of things because I'm susceptible to negative energy. I'm really I just said the word and now I can't get it out. Susceptible. I'm very susceptible to negative energy. I guess I suck susceptible, I guess is another way to pronounce it, pronounce it. Uh, and so I'm in a place where I just I just kind of feel neutral, and that's bad. I feel because then you feel stagnant. You feel like that your life's going nowhere, that you're stuck, and that's where I'm at. That's the and when I start to think about how neutral my life is, and that that when I get into that first gear, and this is now metaphors for cars, and those people who don't give a shit about cars aren't going to relate to this. But when you get it into drive, for those automatic folk, you put it into drive and you start inching forward. What is it that we're really accomplishing? And hopefully, this episode will resonate with those foodies, those relationship experts, and those um, hustlers and grinders and people with ambition. And and the feedback from this episode will be good 30 years from now when people actually care, or really not necessarily care, but they stumble upon a video like this and think about what an individual was going through. When they go through the archives of podcasts, or on my deathbed, or in my eulogy, when people are just reviewing my life. I think about this from time to time when people are seeing the things that I did and evaluating whether I lived a successful life, or if I lived a life of any value. That they'll see this and then they'll, I don't know, maybe appreciate the words, or there's a lesson to be learned here, um, that helps people stop doing the negative things that I'm talking about and do the positive things that I'm talking about. Um, like I've been doing, but you know, we'll see. We'll see. I know the things that negative people are doing are they're negatively impacting myself and people like myself who are just, you know, not like them, not like the people that are fake and phony and behave like that, and that will smile in your face and talk to you like your friend, and then the next minute, you know, you're not a part of their social group, or you're not invited to join their birthday party, or whatever the fuck it may be. Um, yeah. So I think I'd like to eat better. I'd like to find better relationships, ones that are more that are going to build me up more. And then as far as opportunity goes, I think I feel I'm at a crossroads right now. I'm in a crossroads where I'm not sure if the fruits of my labor are ready to be harvested. We'll see. I don't know if if we're going into a drought. I'm just, there's an aspect of faith that for those that are faithless, and for those that um, belittle my faith, for they have no faith. Uh, I hope that faith will pay off, and if it doesn't, then I don't know how much I can believe anymore. I don't know how much I'm more. Um, I don't I don't know that my energy being uh, put into the principles of a Christianity. What's the purpose if it doesn't have any? If it doesn't pay in dividends of great importance in not only a monetary from a monetary standpoint, but from a relationship and a and a health standpoint. It's just what what's next? What's next? You know? And I think about these things because I just went to a wedding, and um and I come back to Texas with big ass churches and things like that embody the Christian faith. And like, what's the point? What's the point if there's this constant level of dread? And I guess it's the time, man. It's, you go everywhere and they're selling you a commercialized packaged version of Halloween, and they're selling you horror movies and stuff like that. And maybe it's the energy that people are exuding in the October fall-ish time period. I just got hit with a whole lot of dread. Just the energy is tough. I don't know. I'm just not designed. I feel like I'm not designed for this kind of culture. I don't know. I don't know how I was born into this culture, but I just I don't feel like I fit in with it. I don't think there's been any consideration or thought put into the people like me and what could be done to improve our human experience, our and whatnot. I don't think that there's a place, a utopia to escape to. Anyway, I'm Trent Knox. This is the Trent Knox Show. You can go to TrentKnox.com and discover more about me, Trent Knox. Follow me on Instagram, Trent Knox TV. Follow me on Twitch, Trent Knox. I'll catch you guys on the next one.